Welcome to the Rover Red Season 2 finale. Stay tuned after the episode for a special announcement. Enjoy. Leah watched as the purple lights gained on the speeder. Beside her, Remus whispered, "What is that?" That's Nightmare. A while back, I fell into the silt and some sort of reaction happened. First, there was Nightshade. But Nightshade was destroyed. Now all that's left is Nightmare. Okay, but what is Nightmare? Imagine the biggest, scariest cat you can. Whoa, Remus said in a low voice. Yeah, now imagine it's made of silt. Remus rubbed his forehead. And you're saying it's chasing us? Leah didn't bother to answer this. She just pointed out the back window at the purple lights that were growing larger with every passing second. Read it, Evie. Leah, if you are unable to stop the speeder using your conclave chip and need to gain access to war another way, draw a 7-pointed lotus flower as the password. After much deliberation among those who do not think that stopping the speeder is the best option, we believe this is the next best way to reach your goals. Good luck, Rover. Washington. I hadn't thought of that. Thought of what? Remus asked. Stopping the speeder with the conclave chip. You think that will work? Remus asked. Not sure, but I think it's worth a try. Read it. Leah, the council was split this vote, and the half of us who didn't agree believe the password to be a 7-pointed lotus flower. We have seen this used as a conclave password by Slade before. Good luck. We're rooting for you. Haley. Evie, what happened on this decision? Why am I getting messages before the result arrives? I am unsure. Well, I guess we can try that Lotus password, whatever that is, while we wait for the official. Leah gave Remus a pained smile. We have an official decision. From that Rover Council thing? Yeah, from that Rover Council thing. Read it, Evie. The Rover Council has decided that you should attempt to stop the speeder using the conclave chip instead of entering a password. Attempt to stop the speeder using the conclave chip instead of entering a password? Half of them want me to do that, and the other half want me to enter the Lotus as a password. Remus, do you know what a lotus is? Remus shook his head. Evie? Although now extinct, the lotus was a flower that symbolized purity of the body, speech, and mind, as while rooted in the mud, its flowers blossom on long stalks, as if floating above the muddy waters of attachment and desire. Sure, a lotus. That makes total sense. It does? Remus asked. No, it doesn't make any sense at all. But their official decision was to try to use the conclave chip. If that doesn't work, we'll give the password a shot. It's what they decided, and we don't have any better ideas, so let's give it a whirl. Remus sighed. I guess you could always try tracing the shape of a dick.
Approaching the war border. Please enter the password or perish.
We're approaching the war border, Remus. Can you help me up to the front?
Remus moved forward. Leah slung her arm around Remus's neck, and he picked her up as though she weighed nothing.
What were you saying earlier? Conclave cut you off.
Remus shook his head. Nothing, just a stupid joke. As Remus carried Leah to the front, she watched the gaining purple lights through the back of the speeder. Remus carefully sat Leah in the pilot's seat. She looked up at him, chewing on the inside of her cheek.
Here goes nothing.
Conclave, stop the speeder.
Request denied. You do not have proper authorization to override the speeder's route.
Leah frowned.
Fine. I'll enter that password then.
Reaching her finger out, Leah began tracing a lotus. When she was finished, the screen flashed with the words, "Passcode accepted."
Yes!
Leah smiled and relaxed in the pilot's seat. Finally, something was going right. Finally, it looked as though things might work out.
What does that mean?
The screen before her flashed a red box with an X through it. Remus looked just as confused as Leah felt.
Evie, what does that symbol mean?
I am unsure.
Conclave, what does that symbol on the screen mean?
As you attempted to alter the course of the speeder before entering the password, I've disabled the gate you are approaching. Warning, the gate you are approaching has been disabled. Please abandon the speeder before it is too late.
No. Conclave, stop the speeder.
I am unable to accommodate that command. This speeder will not stop.
So there's nothing I can do? We're just going to hit a wall and explode?
You will hit a gate and explode.
Silt! We were so close!
I'm sorry, Leah.
Why can't anything be straightforward? Why does everyone have to keep getting in my way and blocking me from the one thing I want? Why can't I just be left to follow through on my own?
Gate approaching.
No.
Leah slammed her fist down on her thigh and her arm snapped right below the elbow.
Silt! Everything is falling apart! I'm falling apart! We're not gonna make it! We're right there and we're not gonna make it! I'm never gonna see Jonah again!
Remus chewed on his lip, occasionally glancing out the back and then returning his gaze to Leah. Yeah, Remus agreed. We're not gonna make it. Besides, Nightmare is almost on us.
Nightmare.
Remus gave Leah a concerned look.
Take me to the back of the speeder. I have an idea.
What about your arm?
I won't have much use for it if we hit a wall. Take me to the back.
Remus bent forward and picked her up, heading straight to the back.
Put me there, in the chair facing the back so I can see out the window.
Remus did as Leah requested. Sitting in the seat, Leah stared out at Nightmare's glowing purple eyes. The Silt Cat was so close she could even make out some of her features. Leah took a deep breath and whispered,
Speaker Prime, I could use a little help here. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if this is going to work. Please help me get to my brother. This thing chasing us right now is the reason my bones are breaking down, but she's the only thing that can save me. Please let her listen. Please make her listen. She has to listen. Or I'm dead.
Leah closed her eyes and held her breath for a few moments before speaking again.
Evie, can you estimate how much bone mass I'm going to lose if I'm able to harness Nightmare's powers?
Leah, I am unable to estimate such an event, but the probability that it would be catastrophic to your internal makeup is exceedingly high.
It's a risk I'll have to take. Let's see what happens. Nightmare, I need your help right now.
The cat kept running, not altering its course in the slightest.
Warning, 1 mile to gate impact.
Nightmare, I'm sorry this happened to you. You may want me dead right now, and I don't think I blame you. I didn't take care of you in the way that I should have. I could have protected you. I could have protected Jonah. I could have protected myself better, but I didn't. I let everyone down. Help me fix it. Nightmare, help me fix all my mistakes. Please. Please help me see Jonah again. Please.
Warning, half a mile to gate impact.
Remus sat down in the seat next to Leah, closing his eyes. He reached out his hand and held it there. She clasped it, ignoring the throbbing coming from her leg, her broken arm, and the stumps that touched Remus's hand. Leah was pain.
Warning. Brace for impact.
Leah relaxed as an overwhelming sense of calm filled her body. At least when she was gone, the pain would be gone as well. At least she left everything behind. Leah's eyes flew open and she clenched her teeth as she stared into the purple eyes of Nightmare.
Maybe all you know now is destruction. Nightmare, destroy the gate.
The response was instantaneous. The purple lights that were Nightmare's eyes jerked to the side and raced past the speeder.
She's doing it! She's doing it!
Something in the joints of Leah's knees wrenched, and she sucked in a deep gasp. Remus stood and looked to the front of the speeder. She's attacking something ahead of us. The gate?
Yeah! She's gonna try her best to destroy it. She's going to help.
Shifting in her seat to turn, Leah felt the place where her legs went into her hips snap. She did it, Remus said. I can see light on the other side. As the speeder barreled forward and Leah sat gasping in pain, Remus whispered 2 words. Oh no. Leah didn't even have the energy to ask. Nightmare finished destroying the gate, but was unable to move in time to avoid being hit as the speeder shot through the opening. She let out a loud yelp that turned into a roar as the speeder hopped off of the track it was traveling over and hit the ground. The speeder skidded to a stop as Leah felt something low in her spine twist and crumble. Leah became aware that people were talking around her. Multiple people. Voices she recognized and several she didn't.
How bad is it?
A woman's voice responded to Slade. It's bad. I'm not sure she'll ever be able to walk again.
Polana, she has to.
She may have to, but that doesn't mean she will, Polana said. Harrow, help me. Leah heard footsteps move toward her. She felt a hand slip into her own and realized whose hand it was immediately. Her eyes jerked open and she saw Jonah sitting beside her. Standing behind him were Lieutenant Slade, Remus, a man wearing the attire of a rover, a cloaked woman, and another woman wearing what looked like army fatigues. This woman looked down and smiled at her. Hi, Leah. My name is Polana. Welcome to war. Leah ignored this Polana, focusing all her attention on Jonah.
Jonah! You're here! Are you okay? Is everything fine? Are you safe? Did they hurt you? Are you okay?
Jonah laughed and nodded. His hands started fluttering in front of him, but Leah couldn't make out what he was saying.
Ask Evie to translate for you.
Evie, translate what Jonah said.
He said he's fine. He's safe.
Good. I tried so hard to get to you faster, but I couldn't. I did everything I could to find you before anything could go wrong.
I know, Jonah signed. You did your best. We're together now. That's all that matters. Leah's eyes flicked to Remus.
Where's Nightmare?
Remus frowned. Nightmare disappeared when we hit her. I saw her eyes for a moment right after the impact, but they faded away. Leah looked around at everyone and realized for the first time that she wasn't in the speeder any longer.
Where are we? How did we get here?
I arranged a pickup. I didn't think you were going to destroy one of the gates, but I guess it's a good thing that you did.
I retrieved you and Remus, Polana said. Brought you back here to Node Prime. Remus laughed. You should have seen Slade's face when he got here. He was panicked we hadn't made it, But we were already inside. Polana rolled her eyes. I still don't understand why he thought we would be waiting outside for him.
It doesn't hurt as much anymore.
Yeah, Polana said. Remus told us you didn't take any pain meds, but I went ahead and gave you a nerve-deadening agent.
Will my reactions be slower now?
Your reaction time doesn't matter anymore, Polana said. Your brother's here. You're here. You're safe. Leah's eyes darted to Slade.
What about him?
Polana glanced at Slade and then looked back at Leah. What about him?
He destroyed my compound. He killed my family.
He'll pay for that, Polana said. He went way outside the bounds that Conclave is supposed to operate under, so trust me when I say there will be retribution made. Leah nodded. Polana's face took on a much more serious set, and she chewed her lip for a moment before speaking. I've some pretty rough news to tell you right now.
What? What's wrong?
I'm not sure how it happened, but whatever link you had to Nightmare has not only destroyed your bone mass, but several of your major organs are shutting down.
What does that mean?
Polana stroked Leah's forehead. You're dying, Leah.
But I've been dying for a while now. What are you saying?
I'm saying that you're at the end of your life. You did a really great job getting everyone to come together and get Jonah to safety. But you should probably say goodbye. If Nightmare is still alive and not destroyed as Remus said, you could be gone within seconds.
It's that bad?
Polana put her hand over her mouth and stood up, walking over to where the rest of the people were. She moved them a respectful distance away from Jonah and Leah.
I'm sorry, Jonah. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you.
You did, though, Jonah signed. Jolene told me that you'd abandoned me, that you didn't care that she had me. But when I saw you in the water room, back in the Coliseum, I knew everything she'd been telling me was a lie. I knew you were there for me. I know you will always be there for me.
I will. I'll do everything I possibly can, whether in this life or the next, to look over you and guard you.
Leah opened her mouth to say something else, but a sudden blast erupted in the massive hall as the door to Node Prime was blown off its hinges. Jonah and Leah turned to look as Slade began running in their direction. Harrow's eyes blazed with purple light as she and Remus ran towards the opening. Polana and the other Rover stood there, looking confused. Polana shook her head as she spoke, suddenly moving into action and following Slade towards Leah. Someone with a Conclave chip is doing this. That's the only way a person could get across the border.
Polana, we need to get the speakers away from this. We need to protect them.
Slade moved to Leah and hooked his arm under her armpits. Without waiting or warning Leah, he began dragging her away. Polana and Jonah followed close behind. Through the hole in the side of the monolith, Leah could just make out the light of laser fire, as well as Harrow's eyes streaking back and forth across the field of battle.
Put them both in the Ascension tube. That's the only place armored against laser fire inside here.
Slade dragged Leah through the door that led to a circular room. Around the walls of the circular room were seats. He gently released his grip on her and headed through the door. Leah lifted her head and looked through to see a man who looked vaguely familiar walking towards Slade, Polana, and Jonah.
Who are you?
I recognize him.
Leah struggled to sit up, only managing to drag herself further away from the door and doing so. Name's Quinn, the man with the rifle said. Slade placed himself in front of Jonah and Polana, holding his hand out for Quinn to stop.
What do you want? Why are you here?
I know him. I've seen him.
How did you get into war? Polana asked. How did you breach the border? Quinn laughed. I'm from here. Leah backed to the far side of the room and began working her way up the wall there. She got to a sitting position, but her breath was coming too fast from the exertion to say anything else for a few moments. "She knows me," Quinn said, flicking his head in Leah's direction.
How does she know you?
"She had my father killed," Quinn said. "She made him walk the tightrope over a bed of flowers." Leah closed her eyes, remembering the man at the back of Bird's theater who left with tears on his face, remembering what Bird had told her.
Everything comes back. It all comes back around.
"Now, I'm going to take something from her," Quinn said as a smile crept across his face. Slade took a step towards Quinn, both of his hands held up as he tried to reason with him.
I doubt she... No!
The barrel of Quinn's gun flicked over to where Jonah was, and Slade spun around to protect the speaker without hesitation. The laser hit Slade in the back, and he fell to his side in the room Leah sat within. Something black was spreading over Jonah's eyes, and Jonah smiled as the building began to vibrate. Slade looked at Leah, pointing out the door at Quinn.
You can end this, Leah. Hit the button. To your left.
Leah looked to her left and saw the green button with a white symbol on it she'd never seen before. It was the symbol for Omega. Slade held his hands over his ear as though he was trying to hear something.
Hit it, Leah, now! We need both of you to live. You can save Jonah.
Leah nodded and reached over. She pushed the button as Quinn turned the gun on Jonah, but before Quinn had a chance to depress the trigger of his gun, a massive tentacle of silt ripped through the giant opening in the monolith and tore the gun away from him, along with his arm. More tentacles flooded into the building, dragging Quinn away as Jonah watched, nodding as though he approved, nodding as though...
Is Jonah doing that?
Yes, it appears that way, Leah. The door to the room Leah was in slid shut, but before it did, Slade tossed something out. Whatever he tossed out didn't stop the door from cutting Slade's legs off neatly above the knees. His howls filled the room he and Leah were in.
How do I open it back up?
Slade smiled at her, blood beginning to drip from the corners of his mouth.
You don't.
What do you...
Node Prime activated. Prepare for ascension.
A roar went up all around, and the bottoms seemed to fall out of the room Leah and Slade were in. They free fell down for what seemed like minutes before they began to slow. Blood pulsed from the stumps where Slade's legs had been.
You can never come back to Apocalypse.
What?
If you do, you will die. You are doomed on this world.
What are you talking about?
Listen to me. Apocalypse isn't what you think it is.
What do you mean?
Give them hell when you see them.
Slade laid his head back on the metal grate of the floor and closed his eyes. Leah watched as the pulses of blood spurting from his legs slowly and eventually stopped, as did his breathing.
Ascension imminent.
The room Leah and Slade were in shot straight up. Leah was pressed down to the floor on her side as the room began to move faster. Below her, she could hear a dull roar. Directly in front of her was a square of clear glass through which she could see a massive field of bluish-green crystals as well as domes and arches. Then the room felt as though it was accelerating with tremendous speed, and the field of crystals disappeared, replaced with random flashes that eventually stopped.
Evie, what's happening?
You're being shot into space, Leah. Leah didn't respond to this as she watched out the clear glass window. Looking down, she saw bright white light suddenly flash and cut jagged lines in the land. As the light shone across the otherwhere, she realized how high up she already was. How far away from Jonah she already was.
What's happening?
Node Prime was activated. I can only assume that whatever Node Prime did is occurring below us. Leah watched as the bright white light sped away in different directions, outlining massive sections of the ever-shrinking land below her. Those lines. They look like the lines.
Node Prime is separating the different regions of Apocalypse from each other. It's creating islands.
What about the land and towns on the borders? What about the Rover compounds on the borders?
From what I can tell, Rover compounds like the one in Orleans, as well as other towns and cities that sit along the border, are gone. Destroyed.
What about Jonah?
I am unsure. Leah closed her eyes and rolled onto her back. It was then that she realized that the top of the room she was in was clear and that she could see through it. A vast darkness bloomed in front of her, punctuated with tiny dots of light. This black was so vast that she felt as though it was swallowing her as she lay there. Looking at the stars she was now part of, she realized there were other things in the sky as well. Blinking lights farther away that pulsed at regular intervals.
Evie, what are those lights that are blinking?
I believe those are spaceships, or even space stations of some sort.
Warning. Conclave system link lost.
Warning. Connection to Central Hub lost. Warning. Connection to Rover Council lost. Leah, dying and leaving behind the only person she cared about, closed her eyes and began to cry.
Hey, this is Madison Martin, the voice of Leah, Evie, and just about everyone else in Rover Red, Alone in Apocalypse. This was the final episode of this podcast. If you would like to continue following Leah as she travels through space, just search Rover Universe wherever you normally get your podcasts from. We'll be releasing the first season of Rover Universe in about 3 months' time, so go ahead and subscribe now. Also, starting this Wednesday, the Patreon-exclusive Project Nightlight feed will shift into the After Apocalypse show, which will feature weekly episodes where the cast and crew of Rover Red talk about other podcasts they like, listener Q&As, struggles with specific episodes, book readings, as well as updates on the progress of Rover Universe. These episodes will each run for about an hour. The base level to get this feed on Patreon is $5. It would really help us continue making this show if you donated. You can look at our levels by visiting roverredpodcast.com/support. Your help means everything to us. We'll see you again in the stars.